All right. So I got back my first ever Cgc submission, at least a partial, because it was 3 different tiers that I submitted under. So these 13 books came back first, obviously, and now none of these were pressed ahead of time. Now, I know a lot of people basically do that to maximize the grade potential, but I didn't want to wait a year to get these back. I mean, right now the turnaround time for these in particular were from date of mailing to back in my hands were about 3 months. Now, if I had chosen to get them pressed, then it would have added like another 5 months to it, I think. So, my opinion is, I figured I would just, get these back as is, and if I wanted to press anything later on, thinking it might be worth it, then I would just crack and resubmit. Now, of the 13 books, 4 of them did come with grader notes, and I'll point those out as I go through here. And the grader notes were all the same, and these sound like they're very easily pressable defects. For example, I have light bends to cover, light creasing in cover, or to cover, and then light spine stress lines in cover. Now, the color breaking stuff can't be improved with the press, but some of the other stuff can. And so, maybe over time I'll again crack and resubmit a few of these. 2 in particular, which were big disappointments. But let's get right into it. So first up, I sent off my copy of Amazing Spider-Man 361, and this was a comic book that was part of my Marvel subscription way back in the day when you could just subscribe directly with Marvel and they'd come in the mail, and not very well protected. And so I didn't know what to expect with this one, but it came in line. I did think maybe like a 9.4-ish, give or take, and this one's a 9.2. And this one did not have any grader notes, but real hot book these days. The first full appearance of Carnage, who I believe is going to feature in the next Venom movie. And so it is a key to have. And a 9.2 grade, this might be a $300 or $400 book, I don't know. But I have very little into these books, so even if I hypothetically cracked and resubmitted all of them, I still am way ahead based on current market value. So up next, I have a copy of G.I. Joe #1, which, in my non-expert opinion, came in line with what I thought it was going to be, which was a very fine near mint 9.0 grade. And this is the very first issue of G.I. Joe Marvel Comics from 1982. All right, moving on. Up next is, a book that I remember buying raw, and I want to say that I bought it raw with a description of an 8.5. Of course, it doesn't always work out that way. This is a book that had grader notes, and I think it's worth resubmitting at some point because I'm looking it over now, and I think a lot of these small defects can be improved, and at the very least result in a half-grade bump, possibly more, who knows. But this is Star Wars #1 Marvel Comics, and this is a 7.5. So when I sent these out, I just kind of went through my my short box of keys, raw keys, and from about 3 feet away, I'm like, yeah, that looks good, that looks good. And so, as a result, a couple of these were like, whoa, what did I miss here? But that's not this one. This is the first of 2, Uncanny X-Men number 266, featuring the first full appearance of Gambit. Now, one of these I bought raw, and I don't think this is the one. I think this one I'm going to show here is one that came in a lot that I picked up of Uncanny X-Men, like a 150-book run, and this was included. And so I sent this along. I sent 2 copies again. And the other copy, I believe, is one that I purchased on eBay in a higher grade. This is a 9.0. Okay? And, when you talk about going back for a press, I was looking at some of the deltas between 9, 9.2, 9.4. And in some cases, it's not really that significant. It's only when you get up to like the 9.6, 9.8 where you really start seeing those bumps. Now, I did not get any 9.8s in this submission, unfortunately. I did get a couple of 9.6s. So we'll get to those here shortly. Up next is... pleased with this one. It came in line with what I expected. A book that I bought off the rack at the comic book store whenever it was released. And it's kind of a big deal, getting to be a big deal, or maybe going to be an even bigger deal, is Heir to the Empire 1, which features the first appearance of Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was mentioned in the Ahsoka Tano episode of The Mandalorian last season, and then also Mara Jade, who I'm not sure if there's any plans for her, but yeah, this is a nice book to have. Now, as far as sending it back for repressing, I don't know if there's anything that can be fixed. The cover on this is like a hard stock cover. I did look it over pretty good, and I just think it's just from the aging, there's not much that can be improved. So, in my opinion. Yeah, so I got the 9.4 on Heir to the Empire #1. Okay, up next is my first 9.6. And this is the other Uncanny X-Men featuring the first appearance of Gambit. Now, this one is probably a book that I bought on its own. There was a time when I was buying, raw comic keys that I liked from like the 80s and 90s on eBay, just, ungraded. And this was one of them. There's a few others that are in here that were sent out for grading. But yeah, here's kind of a key book too, Gambit. We haven't seen much of him yet in the, even in the Fox movies, but probably start seeing some more of him when, Marvel gets things together with the X-Men teams and whatnot. There's a lot of characters to draw from for Marvel Cinematic stuff or even Disney Plus. Okay, arguably my biggest disappointment. There's two books that really disappointed me, and this is the first. Now, up on closer inspection, yeah, I see these spine ticks that are color breaking, and there's a few of them. But, I mean, honestly, I thought this was going to be a lot higher. So this is one candidate I think would be eligible for a press. And this also had those greater notes. It's the Incredible Hulk 340. This came back a 6. And this has become a very hot book also. It's a McFarlane cover, classic cover. Yeah, and I picked this one up raw. I think when I bought these raw books, the ones I'm showing here, I don't have anything maybe more than $40 into the book. I think maybe the Gambit one might have been $40-something back whenever it was I picked it up. This one was, I think, only $20 or $30. So, in a 6.0 grade, it's like a $100 book. But this definitely is something I'm going to probably crack and resubmit at some point. Because, again, it had those greater notes. And, yeah, I could see some indentations on the cover, which could be pressed out. And so, yeah, I thought this would be at least a 9.0. But, again, I'm no expert, obviously. So, okay, moving on. Another big one. This is a McFarlane cover. And this one also kind of came in line with what I expected. Amazing Spider-Man 316. And this is a Venom cover, his first cover, I believe, and so therefore the significance. And yeah, what more can you say? 9.4, still a nice grade. You wonder if pressing some of these, this did not have any greater notes. I mean, I'm not planning on reselling these. They're really just for my collection. Okay, so here's book number 2 that disappointed me as far as the grade is concerned, and this was a book that, when I remember buying it raw, was advertised as high grade. And I'm looking it over here, and honestly, I don't know what's wrong with this book to earn a grade this low. It's my copy of Eternals #1. It came back at 6.5. But yeah, this is another one of the 4 books that received the grader's notes. And definitely worth a second look, a pressing, and a resub. The Eternals are going to have a Marvel movie this fall, which may or may not be successful, TBD. But, it could be the next big franchise, depending on how they handle it. And that's why I sent this book off. That's why I picked this book up when I did. They were talking about an Eternals movie, I think 4, 5, 6 years ago. And so this is part of my spec. Comic specking. I bought this raw, the origin and first appearance of the Eternals, and as I look at it here, yeah, it's just disappointing. It only got the 6.5. Okay, so I got 4 left. Up next is Wolverine Limited Series number 1. This came back in 9.0. Another one of those, you know, raw keys that I picked up. Yeah, I guess that's a reasonable grade. I don't know, you know, if it would be worth. This one did not have any grader notes attached to it, but don't know if I'd want to go through the hassle of doing it all over again. But yeah, white pages. Most of these have white pages. I think the forward, the notes are the ones with the off-white and white. Okay. All right, here's the book. I only sent this one out just because I like this artwork a lot, and I thought the aesthetic of the blue label and the blue cover would just look nice presentation-wise. Devil Dinosaur. Now, I remember buying this one raw, and in the description it was a 9.6. So close, 9.4. Maybe a $100 book. I just like this Jack Kirby artwork for whatever reason. It appeals to me. But, yeah, Devil Dinosaur number 1. Came back with a 9.4 grade, white pages. And, all right, here's one that disappointed me a little bit, and I think was the last one to get the grader's notes. And as I'm looking this over, there's some things that certainly can be fixed, it looks like. But not sure if it'll be worth it, because I'm not sure how high of a grade bump I would even get, you know. You gotta wonder, okay, if I'm gonna spend $30 to regrade it, and $30 to press it, whatever it is, $50 maybe on average to do this again, does it result in a grade bump of at least $50 or more, you know? So this one maybe, Marvel Premiere number 28, Legion of Monsters, just a cool book, cool cover, cool combination of characters. And this came back a 7.0. I thought it would be like an 8.0, but got the 7. So, and then the last book is my other 9.6. And, you know, the 9.6, I'm just going to leave as is. I'm not going to try to play that 9.8 game, but New Mutants number 87, featuring the first appearance of Cable. And this was another raw purchase. This one I think was like around $40 to $50 as well. Now, Cgc, they had a price increase, but actually I think it's not a big deal. It's better than what they did, because when I sent these books out, they had a, you know, up to $200 value, and then they had, you know, for modern, and then they had up to $400 value for modern, and then they had pre-75, right? So 75 or later, they had 2 different tiers based on value, and then prior to 75 was another tier altogether. So because I had some raw books that were above $200, in my opinion, I had to send them under a different tier. But they've combined those two since. So the $18 price point went to $22, but then the $28 price point went down to $22. So in essence, it's sort of like a better situation, and they consolidated things, made it easier. Anyway, those other moderns that are still out there of higher value are Amazing Spider-Man 239, New Mutants 98, and boy, I forget the other one. Anyway, so I got those still out there floating in the ether, and I got another tier of like pre-75 books that I'm not expecting too much from. But anyway, that's it. So my first submission is CGC. I already am planning my second submission, which includes Darth Vader number 3, featuring Dr. Aphra's first appearance. You'll be seeing a lot, or hearing a lot more about her probably on the Disney Plus network. And then some classic cover stuff I want to send out, and some other books that have become hot. So anyway, that'll be a whole other video at some point. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. And again, I have 7 more books out there at CGC under 2 different tiers, which will come back, I think, probably within the next month. So I'll make videos for those as they roll in. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.